here.
We're
We
here.
are here again, guys.
Brendan just
We
took
never
away all
left.
my snacks. He says that they're not gluten free,
We
so
just-
I can't eat them.
Thank you for
Aw.
tuning in, guys. As Kirsten calls you, busy babies. I mean, we call busy
I was-
babies too. I just haven't said it. I love y'all.
We all call
It's
them
only
our
a
busy
Kirsten thing.
babies.
Man, my gosh, I feel like I haven't watched movies in a long time. Like the last thing I went and saw was Fall
Okay.
Guy. Fall Guy was really good.
Well,
Like
yeah.
the actual last thing that you watched was Fall Guy.
The actual last thing that I
Wait,
watched was Fall Guy.
Is that the
and
is that
the
a-
Fallout series, no correlation.
Wait, is Fall
It's a lot of
Guy?
falling.
Yeah.
Is that the newest movie though?
Yeah, so
Who's in that again?
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
my
His
my
favorite.
my boo thing.
Boo thing.
Okay.
I love that man. Yeah.
We watched our last one we watched was the last
Well, I actually here.
sounds
I'll help
The
you.
eighth
I'll help
one.
you. I'll help
What is-
you.
why am I
yes,
tripping?
the new our last movie was the new Planet of the Apes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That one was actually pretty cool.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, because the last movie he saw was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? I don't know if it still is anymore. When we saw it,
Mm.
it was #1 on Netflix. But the new Serial movie.
Oh,
The new-
Unfrosted.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
Unfrosted.
good, right?
Yeah,
I
liked
haven't
it.
seen it yet.
It was
no.
good. We watched it.
that movie was great because
They had so many actors and actresses in that movie.
That's what I've heard. That's the one Jerry Seinfeld, right?
yes,
Poor guy's
yes.
been getting a lot of hate lately.
really.
People been hating on Jerry Bear.
Wait,
Yeah.
why? I don't actually know.
He's just been getting a lot of flack because he's kind of like of that philosophy where this generation can't handle jokes anymore and
Ah,
da 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 da
yeah.
da.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So some people are like, well, you were never funny to begin with, so that's why no one puts up your jokes. All this stuff. I don't know.
He's
That's
basically
just like what's
he's
going
giving
on in the
himself a
TikTok
shovel.
world.
Someone's got to give him a shovel.
Yeah,
Start digging
yeah.
himself out of that
He's
hole.
digging himself a hole a little bit with this
Yeah.
generation, but yeah.
I just found it funny though because back in the day there's a line that killed me. Obviously back in the day no one really thinks about it anymore, but now it's like the whole thing about what's very healthy, what's not very
Right,
healthy.
right.
People I think nowadays pay attention to the ingredients in their
Yeah,
foods.
of course,
Versus
yeah.
back then I don't think people really cared.
I feel like people that can afford to pay attention.
Right.
I do feel like it's
Yes.
a privilege of like,
right.
yeah.
So there was a scene in the movie where
You can grow your own garden.
I mean, you can depending on where you
who's-
live.
Not many
Come on.
people are gonna put the effort in to grow their own garden.
or have the like financial capabilities or location to do it or time to do it. It's like it's something you can do, but it's a lot harder. Like growing crop is a lot harder.
We found this out the other before you go into that because it's kind of a crazy thing. So a lot of molded coffee is allowed in
Oh,
America.
God.
And so the funny thing is
Ew.
every other country in the world does not have mold in their coffee. And so
I
what
hope.
they do is any of the bags, there was this person saying like, what do you do with all the bags with mold in them that aren't allowed in the other countries? We send them to America. And so most your coffee has mold in it. It has a bunch of really disgusting stuff in it. So that's
Okay.
why you really should look at what you're eating
Guys,
regardless.
Key word here is organic.
Well,
yeah.
not even
That's-
organic here. It's
Forget
like,
what I said, guys.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
the
forget what I-
keyword. The
forget what I
keyword
said.
was.
Forget what I said.
yeah, man.
It lasted 2 seconds.
But
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you're going into unfrosted. It's kind of
Well-
hilarious how like they make.
Well, I thought it was funny because the main one that always won back in the day was Kellogg, right?
Mm.
So Kellogg, they would just constantly win with the new cereal, the new everything,
Mhm.
I'm
and
thinking of
and
something.
yeah, and it's really funny because then they were like they found out one of the other companies was building some new snack that had nothing to do with milk,
Right,
wasn't
right.
cereal. So they're like, how do we beat them? Like, how do we get there first? So they went and they bought like all the sugar. So so the companies don't have any access to sugar. So then the other company that was
All
like,
the sugar.
they bought all the sugar that they
access to the sugar
Oh,
Yeah.
shipments.
oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. So they like completely blocked the other companies from buying sugar.
Hope
Mhm.
you're not planning
So-
on watching this.
No.
So
or
so
anyone,
the company
I guess.
yeah, so the company's sitting there saying like, damn, like they bought all the sugar. What are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna continue this? And then the guy goes, yeah, we get a little ingredient. This is where like the artificial flavors were born.
Ugh.
And then they're making like this jelly, and the guy goes, just put a little petroleum in it. They're not gonna really notice for a few years. Just let them eat it. Let them eat it.
What?
It's just a little
Yeah.
petroleum. Just put it
Which
in
is
there.
in a lot of food.
No.
And
Well, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's just like that's wow.
Yeah, and then they started using the artificial dyes, and just that's where the artificial thing came from. Apparently, I don't know the actual
Dude.
facts behind it, but that was the movie.
That was the movie, which
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a pretty wild movie to watch.
I believe it, man. I believe it. That's
For the
like a
one scene, I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna ruin it for you.
no. It's just
Yeah.
like well, it's also just how the
I-
food industry's
yeah.
changed so much too. It's like, for example, with like seed oils and stuff. Like
Oh yeah.
McDonald's fries used to be made with beef tallow, you know, and then they moved over to I think like canola oil or vegetable oil and stuff like that. It's
Icing
like
sugar,
yeah, it's so
plastic.
it's so interesting how how the food industry has changed so much. And then you can also see it in chains when they blow up, the food just doesn't taste the same. But that's also why in Europe the McDonald's and stuff is still so good because they protect a lot of their people for the most part, like most of the places over there.
Yeah, some places.
With what's allowed in their food.
It
Like
just reminded me.
Huh.
So, I'm just laughing because some places it's still good. I hadn't had McDonald's for years. I can't even say the last time I had McDonald's
Same.
before this time. And we go to Italy, and
bro, that's where I had it last. It was so good.
Okay, well I had it maybe
Mine came in a plastic
maybe
bag.
this island just wasn't where it's
Yeah,
at.
well, yeah, you guys were on
Maybe,
an island.
yes, look, a lot of things went wrong on
Mine
the
was in
island.
Milan. That's
So-
right. Yeah, it was 3 a.m. and I was very drunk too.
Long
though,
story
so-
short, I had a little burger at McDonald's, and I'm like, damn, this is what this was like. But no, it didn't go well.
No?
No, I was just
It
like,
didn't
I
hit?
remember why I don't eat McDonald's.
Do you remember which island you guys were on?
Yeah, Sardinia.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But don't get me wrong, their pasta, pizza, divine.
Okay.
McDonald's,
Coffee, divine. They're a blue zone actually,
Oh.
which means that their people live longer than
What?
Everyone else.
yeah, there's certain blue
There's
zones around the
certain
world.
blue
It means that specific population is known to live longer than the rest of the world.
Oh, are they very like community driven?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, our
Are the
community.
old people out all the time? Did you
Yes.
see a ton of old people?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Well, it's also
gotcha.
an island on the beach. You're chilling. You wake up every morning. You have your routines. It's
mhm.
very like, even our Airbnb owners were so kind.
Yeah.
Like, just so nice people.
I was reading this book called Ikigai, which is basically
Ikigai?
like Ikigai, which is like it's basically Japanese for like your purpose.
Oh, I
you know
like that.
Like it doesn't
Okay.
directly translate into that, but it's the study of like having a purpose in life and finding your purpose, and it's called
Guy or
Nice.
guide?
Ikigai. Ikigai. Ikkigai. I think
So
Ikigai.
it's one word.
Gai.
Okay.
Guy. Ikigai.
I really like that word.
And
Hey, that was awesome to watch.
and it talks about zones like that. How like there are certain places where it talks about all this in the book. Is an audiobook, so I don't think I held on to everything as much as I wish I did. But it was talking about that too. How there's islands and towns where the 3 biggest things that kept people alive was their diet.
Mhm.
Like a lot of it was like they had fish like 3 times a day, and then it was mostly a vegetarian diet. And then community, like all the people were always
Mhm.
going out together, no matter the age. And work, none of them retired. Like
Yep.
retire killed you basically,
Yeah.
because you would lose your ikigai, and your ikigai was kind of
Yeah.
your purpose. Yeah.
Well, also just the way that they handle work, I think, in certain
Right.
countries is
I-
very much so take rest.
Yeah.
Go into this.
Yeah, man, our work week
Well,
is
it's like, yeah, I was gonna say people
is
don't
messed
have
up.
to like, force themselves to work 7 days a week just to survive.
yeah, I mean, well,
you
that's
know?
that's an interesting thing, right? Like I was watching this dude that was kind of breaking down on TikTok. He wasn't breaking down a video; he was straight up breaking down. And he's like, I'd say I have a pretty successful job, like good enough for what's mostly needed where I live, and I have a rain check account and stuff like that. He's like, I quit my job that I was doing because it was destroying me. I was working 7 days a week. He goes, it's been less than a week, and I have impending doom and anxiety about why I'm not working, what I'm going to do next, and everything. He's like, where else do you worry about this? Like, he's like, this across the world is just an American thing. And a lot of like European stuff we're coming is like, that's mostly in America. Like, we don't have that problem out here. And this isn't like
Yeah.
a bash and bag, a bash. It's just from a worldly perspective, it is very interesting
Right.
seeing
right.
how the work week goes and how the hustle goes and everything like that. And I think the claim is like, well, America has a lot of millionaires and stuff. It's like, yeah, but at this point, like, there's millionaires and billionaires everywhere. I don't know
Everywhere,
if they're just
yeah.
like fun, if they're, you know,
It's just the culture that we live. The
yeah,
American
it's
culture.
yeah,
There's
Um,
definitely hubs where majority of people at that scale are,
Yeah.
but it's really everywhere at this point.
yeah. Like, because I just found it super interesting. Hearing them talk about it. And someone also brought up a great point. They're like, why is every job 9 to 5 and then everything you need to do during the day, the stores are only open 9 to 5? they're like,
wanna stress you
what?
out?
Yeah, they're like, what am I supposed to do? And then you're supposed to go do those things on the weekend when everyone's trying to go do those things. They're like, how do you have a life? Like, how do you
Yeah.
actually have a life outside of these things?
And then you're spending the 2 hours before 9 in traffic, the 1 hour and a half before that showering, get ready, and
Listen,
eating
listen,
breakfast,
Oh,
and then
dude.
driving home till 7.
yeah,
Listen, this is one conversation. I mean, we can circle back on what you were just saying.
Yeah.
But she just made me think about it with her comment. There's times where, like, for example, Kirsten will be like, "Okay, I'm gonna fly, and I'm arriving at LA at this time. Can you pick me up?" And I'm like, "Well, hold on.
oh,
Let's look at another flight because this time,
uh-huh.
unless you want to be in the car for 4 hours after you arrive,
Yeah.
it's not going to be worth it."
See, that's
It's-
the one extra thing that comes with marriage that's exclusive to LA is going and picking up your spouse. It's like that. That's a very exclusive to LA thing. It's like,
Brandon does it a lot too.
because
so
if
thank you.
oh
Oh,
dude, I
God,
get my
yeah.
girl every time. Because if there's like it's just an unspoken knowledge
Well,
like
it's-
that.
it's
you
the
want
op-
to?
it's
What's
the
your
only
measure of
option.
love? I'll come to LAX at prime time traffic to grab
Just
you.
to
That's how
grab
much I love
Bro,
you.
s-
I don't
bro,
even ask my homies to
Kirsten-
get me because I know what I'm. I know what I'm asking.
Bro, Kirsten the other day told me, she's like, "Okay, babe, I'm gonna land on Tuesday at 8 a.m." And I was just like, my heart drops. My heart drops. I didn't even know what to say.
I
to
love how
them.
that's like a difficulty of the week. You're like in
Oh
your
my
planner, it's all these
gosh.
things, and it's just like skull and bones picking up Kirsten at 8
Yeah,
a.m.
literally.
You're like tying a bandana, like putting on Eye of the
Well,
Tiger,
it's
getting
like-
ready
yeah.
for it.
I do want to go into like work too, because I think that you carry a different. We talk a lot about our stress in our jobs.
Yeah.
But what are some like wild things that you've been through, Brandon, in your work day? Because you really do spend like 9 to 5. Those are your hours. You're your own like work hours, but 9 to 5 is like truly a heightened.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
and the
Yeah.
weekend.
I was gonna say, I mean, I go.
It
I
doesn't
think.
stop.
I think.
No.
I think I go beyond 9 to 5. To be honest.
Yeah.
I had to actually build a boundary line where, when if the phone rings past a certain time in
Right.
the evening, like, be a respectful factor and be like, this is my time at home. I'm with my family. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk numbers at like 10 p.m.
Right. Right.
he still does.
Yeah. Also, when
But-
will you have chance to like, smoke it up? You're always taking calls. but yeah, I mean, it's like
but no,
yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day, it's like you are dealing with some of the most important, if not the most financial important decision for someone, whether
yeah,
they're
their
buying,
livelihood.
whether
right,
they're
Yeah.
buying or selling their own home, or
Mhm.
they're buying or selling an investment.
right.
There's a lot of emotions attached to it, and I just feel like as an agent, you're there, one, guiding the client in the
Mhm.
right direction and helping them navigate the whole transaction from A to Z, and basically just helping them understand why this is happening this way and what's going to be the final outcome. But
I have a
Go
question
ahead.
for you real quick. I'm sorry. Does that ever have you ever had some clients where it broke your heart that they also lost the place? Like you
Yeah.
got so close
Yeah.
with them and understood what it meant to them and stuff, and
100%.
you almost get a little choked up because you're like, oh, man,
100%.
I'm so sorry.
And that's
yeah.
100%. I think that's one of the worst things in the
Right.
business for me to do.
Yeah.
And Kirsten's witnessed it. Probably, yeah. She's witnessed it a numerous amount of times in 8 years in this business. But
8 years, damn.
there's
That's right.
there's times where I've just been like, like I've had clients where like, this is my dream home, and they're like, yeah, this is my dream home, this is it, and they'll start pre-planning like during like I get to the point now where I'm just like, guys, don't fall in love with the house until
Mhm.
it's yours. Don't fall in love with the investment property until it's yours.
Yeah.
Don't get emotionally attached until I call you and say it's yours.
Because it's a tough
But
market.
but there's times I've had to like literally like I'll go to Kirsten, I'm just gonna be like, damn it, I have to call them and tell them they didn't get their dream house. Like I have to make that phone call, and I'm just I dread making that phone call, but I have to make that phone call because I mean, we have to keep moving, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's such a bad phone call that it completely removes the client from looking to move forward.
Right,
Whether
right.
that's buy another house, buy
Yeah.
another investment property, whatever it is, because there's shock. You know, at the end of the day, there's also been like deals that, you know, like I've just lost
Yeah.
or have become very problematic situations.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I was thinking about
And
that.
what's one of your worst experiences?
Oh,
I mean,
And how did you handle it?
well, it was interesting. I think probably one of the most stressful situations I've ever had in this business was actually very early on. But that situation alone also like built something within me to
Mhm.
now I can handle things differently.
Every failure, every
Yeah,
obstacle
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. But that scenario, this client was a lead
Mm.
sent to me. It was a referral. I didn't know them previously.
Sidebar.
Yeah,
What's a lead?
a lead is basically you send a friend over to me.
Okay.
That's buying
So
a house.
reference,
Yeah,
kind of?
yeah,
Okay, cool,
referral.
cool.
Yeah. So basically, you know, I'm helping this person find a house, find them this house, a beautiful house in Chandler Estates, and basically, it was a great deal, obviously to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I expressed that to the client, and the client, I guess for whatever reason, was not aware of certain things, but they were made aware. I just don't think they comprehended what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it. I'm the type of person where it's like, if I call you and tell you a bunch of details,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna write you a text or an email reiterating our conversation.
Mm.
So it's not like, okay, he told me this, because at the end of the day, anyone can have a conversation and go through hell for a couple hours and forget what that phone call was like.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always do that now to keep paper trail. But long story
Important.
long story short, thankfully I still lived by that in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, the house was about 2 mil. I was able to get like 100,000 off the house, 50,000 off the house, whatever. And they came back with, so we got it 100,000 off. The seller countered us, a counter offer,
Oh, man.
basically increasing the price by another 50,000.
But
My client was a little hesitant on that, but I
Yeah.
was like, look, regardless of it, we're getting it below market value.
right.
I'm telling you right now, the house is worth it, whether it's 100 or 50, it's worth it. But then I expressed that a part in escrow is an appraisal contingency. What that means is, you know, the bank who's doing your loan is going to hire an appraiser to come and make sure you're getting the house at market value. So they come and evaluate the property and say, okay, you are getting it for the right price.
Right.
Or it's like, yeah, you're in escrow for 1.9, it's really worth 1.5. Yeah, I wouldn't buy it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting. Gotcha. Okay.
So long story short, they came in at value. We get all the way to the end. I'm saying like a month later, long story short, she's signing paperwork. And the client calls and goes, you know, I thought the purchase price was this, and it was a lot worse than what I'm making it to be. But I kept trying to express that it wasn't the way they were expressing it. This is what it was. They decided to not sign the documents
At the very end.
at the very end, and the deal, the deal ended up closing
Oh man.
because the other agent was very cooperative with us. But they ended up not signing the docs and threatening to like take me into a lawsuit and this, that,
Whoa.
for like lying and misrepresentation, this, that, you know, brought company attorney, brought partners, everyone involved. We all had to sit down on a table before we went to
Not in seats?
a full lawsuit. Exactly. Full lawsuit. Full lawsuit.
Everybody on the
And
table.
my partners basically were like, I need you to print out every email,
Yeah.
even your text message, every text message. So basically any argument that is said, I can show that it was explained properly. So, and that's the only reason why we didn't end up going into a lawsuit, because I did express it properly.
Wow.
Yeah, I did explained it properly.
Yeah.
I explained it properly in text and email.
Mm-hmm.
The same days, like what I was saying, like we have a conversation, I write it to you in 2 different aspects so you can see it later. So
How frequently just brought up how frequently do lawsuits come, or like suit coming around.
Lawsuits happen frequently in real estate.
I was
Thankfully,
just yeah.
they happen frequently. Thankfully, with me, that was the only close one.
Okay.
That was the only close one.
Yeah.
There was one more scenario where the word lawsuit was said,
Mm.
but then it was shut down very quickly, and all parties agreed because the reason why it was shut down was just put out very easily.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that was probably the closest one there, and it was a lot of stress in the moment. Now another
Sounds like
one other deal that was
I mean, getting
Wha-
like a lawsuit to you and at any capacity is stressful.
oh,
a
dude.
very complex deal was it wasn't actually problematic, but my client was buying this like $9 million house, and they couldn't get approved financing the regular traditional route because of whatever was there.
Mhm.
So we had to like talk to a few people and get like three separate loans on this transaction
Okay.
with three separate terms. One loan was fully paid off in 2 years.
Mhm.
The second loan was fully paid off in 5, and the next loan was basically refinanced into a 30-year.
That's crazy. So do you have to go to like different banks for that, or?
Private lenders. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot to the deal, but that's like one of those conversations. She witnessed me go through it too. Like I'm talking to like 10 different people,
Yeah.
and I have to keep everyone happy, because if one's not happy, nothing's moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
yeah. Well, because it's everyone's funds too.
Yeah.
It's everyone's money, and when it becomes people's money, it's like
Well,
it's so scary.
and when you're purchasing something at that scale, it's a lot of money, and
Yeah.
it's very serious. So if one thing's off,
Yeah.
it's
a problem.
cancellation.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's why it's like the education of how money works is so important. Because most people hear this and they're just like, what? Like, I wouldn't, most people are barely even thinking about just getting enough money to buy their first house or be
Yeah.
able to just put a down payment on their house, and they're like, and I'm going to pay that off for the rest of my life and stuff like that. It's like these sort of things where you're like, oh yeah, and in private, lenders and stuff like that, and everyone being no one knows
Yeah.
really about that.
Yeah.
Nor is
no
taught
one knows
about
Well-
the
that.
tears that the real estate agents really cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because honestly, you have to think like just the amount of time you have to put in energy into like making someone feel safe,
Mhm.
but being honest and making them feel safe,
Yeah.
and then taking care of it and making the other party feel safe.
Right.
And then you're in the center, in the middle. It's not like having a manager where they're on your side.
Yeah.
Or a lawyer that's on your side. It's
Yeah.
somebody that's on your side but still on the other side,
Right.
making sure the parties come together. Like,
And they've got
like
something
a
to
judge.
lose too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was something too going on. I believe it already expired. You know that California Dream for All program thing?
Yeah. What? Yeah. What
What
is?
was
Yeah. So a lot of people were coming up to me, a lot of friends, and saying like, "Hey, like, what is this?" I've spoken to some banks, some lenders, and they're saying that like they can't help me with this. They can't help, like, why is no one offering to help me? And I was like, well, they can't do anything to help you. So what it is basically is you go on to the city website, you click that loan program, that finance support, and it's almost like winning the lottery,
Right.
really.
Yeah.
So you basically fill out an application and you have to meet the income requirements. So like someone who's making like multiple six figures
Mhm.
would not be able to get approved for it.
Oh.
So basically is you have to meet the income requirements, you have to apply, and then within 30 days, they only pick a handful of vouchers. If you get approved,
Mhm.
you will receive a voucher either in your email or your mail, and that voucher will basically cover they'll gift you 20% down towards a purchase price of the XYZ, maybe 1.5, maybe $1 million, because California's
To help you get a
median home
house?
price. Yes. Yeah. And then
What?
that's why it's like winning a lottery ticket, because they give you the 20%, so you have it to buy your house.
You don't have to pay it back.
Well, you do, but the catch
Oh.
is like the catch is like you pay the 20% back when you sell the house, plus
Oh snap!
plus you pay them 15% of the appreciation value.
Wow.
Yeah, so you pay your 20% back plus 15% of the appreciation value.
it's still great for you though.
It's great, but I tell everyone, I was like, the reason why lenders saying they can't help you is
Mhm.
because you have to personally apply. Lenders
Ah.
can't apply for you, and then if you get the voucher, then you take the voucher and take it to the lenders. But until you
Okay.
have the voucher, lenders can't do anything for you
Right.
because you don't have the approval of the funds.
Man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Well, I mean,
So many avenues.
Yeah.
so many
really.
avenues.
Yeah.
It's like when and this is probably
So
just
lucky I married you.
me not being
I
in
got
yeah, I missed out on that opportunity. This must also just be, me not being the most educated in this too, but I always just thought when it was time to buy a house, if that day ever came, when that day comes, it was like a relatively like I want that one or that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I want
you
that
know what I
one.
mean? Like I was ignorant to just
Yeah.
all of this, but also
Yeah.
I guess it's completely contextual to the market in which you would be buying a house. Like obviously
Yes.
buying a house, if I was in like Louisiana or like the South or somewhere, where I'm from, it's probably not as much as it is going through
It's
all the
not as
hoops
inflated.
out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like out here, it makes sense why there's so much protection stuff and why everyone has to be happy and stuff.
So
It's
many
just
moving pieces.
so many moving pieces, man.
Yeah.
And then also we've talked about this before, but sometimes I'm still just like, for an investment, getting a house out here makes sense if you can do it. It makes sense
Yeah.
as an like investment thing.
Yeah.
But man, it's like
Look, I think even buying a house here, I think even buying a house here is an investment.
yeah.
I mean, ultimately,
home.
ultimately, it is. You're owning an
Mhm.
asset, right? And we're in such a city that appreciates so high.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, like, some people in California, they leave to like Texas or Nashville. You see a lot of the people that move to Nashville and Texas moving out of there,
Right.
too. It's just a lot of people don't also know it's like, property tax in Texas is a lot higher in California, but then people are saying, well, you can get way more for your price in Texas, which you can,
Right.
but your appreciation, if you're looking like if you're going to sell in like a year or two,
Yeah.
then that's not a good investment. Even if you're buying the house for 500, you're probably going to lose money.
California
You
is
know?
like one of the only places where you could buy a house and a year later sell it for appreciated
Yeah, in the
value.
right location.
Good
Yeah.
in the
appreciation,
right location. So
Right.
so it's not like a one
It's not like an
size.
anywhere. It's not like,
Really?
oh, I just buy in LA and in a
No.
year. And then you also got to think about you have your California tax law,
Okay.
which is like
All right.
Weird.
Do explain.
California tax law is let's say you own a property.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can sell before 2 years,
Uh-huh.
but if you sell between 2 to 5 years, you as an individual, you basically save $250,000 tax free off your capital gains. Now, if you're
Every year you stay? Or wait, I'm
no,
confused.
just
If
one
you sell
time.
between
No,
two,
one time.
2 and 5 years.
No, yeah, if you sell your house within
Uh-huh.
2 to 5 years of owning it,
Uh-huh.
and then let's say you made 300,000 profit, 250,000 of that is tax free.
What?
Yeah, so yeah.
that's why there's like almost
But then if you're married and you have both of you on title, it's 250,000 per person.
what?
So
So then so there's like almost a push to try to sell your house if you know you're going to be going somewhere else.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
like for example, if hypothetically speaking, let's say found a house, it's 850, whatever, 900, but it's a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and like most people hearing this are like, oh my God. But like, let's say you do that and you buy the house 20% down, right? And then you sell it in 3 years and it's appreciated to like 1.5,
Mhm.
right? So then you're eligible for that thing.
yeah. If you're
Whoa,
within
is that
the
just
2
a
5
California
years,
thing?
that's California tax law.
What? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is nice because then if you think about it, all the loan or the not the loan, the appraising
Yeah,
value
yeah.
that you get back, you can put into a new home.
Well, that's what I was
and
just
do it
thinking.
and keep doing it.
So
Yeah.
what's the benefit then to staying in the place longer?
Well, it's just like if you
Comfort
it's just
or-
if you really love the house,
Yeah,
if you
duh,
really love
yeah.
the house, if you really love the location,
Mm-hmm.
or if you can buy other investment properties without selling it.
Yeah. See, that's why
You know?
renting has messed me up mentally, is because I am used to, well, for a multitude of reasons, but I am used to like, oh, if I don't like this vibe, I know in a year I could probably switch it up.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're at a house,
Yeah.
it's like
Well-
unless you have the opportunity to sell that place or whatever, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's why people change their houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Is because you're just like, oh, oof, all right, well, I'm here. I am here
Yeah.
now, you know?
Well, there's another. I helped a good friend of mine years ago buy this house for around like 1.3, somewhere between 1.3, 1.4.
Right.
I don't know the exact number,
Mm-hmm.
But you know, at first, you know, they didn't really know much about real estate in the city, so they're like, I just want to buy my first house. Where do we go? You know, obviously, one of the other perks of having an agent is your agent should know what's going on in your
Yes.
neighborhood.
Right.
You
right,
know,
right.
like here in LA,
Brandon
you're gonna
knows.
know Sherman Oaks, Studio City, Valley Village, Toluca Lake. Where's the right place to buy a house, right?
Right.
So I was telling them, I was like, look, at this time, I mean, we're talking way before pandemic times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I told them, I was like, buy in this city. And we went and looked a few houses in this city. He found a house he loved, but they weren't sold on the neighborhood because the neighborhood was like a 50-50. Some of it was nice, some of it really wasn't, but you could tell it was up and coming. You know, so I basically was like, look, if you don't mind this section, this house, it's a good investment. If you're in here for a few years, you're gonna appreciate pretty high. So long story short, that conversation went longer than what I'm saying right now, but they ended up buying the house, and we're talking about it now, where it's basically like he's looking to purchase something now, but the appreciation, you know, he's probably making around $1 million. So, but he doesn't know if he wants to sell because it's such a beautiful home, which it
Yeah.
is a beautiful house. So
Yeah.
basically, the other option is like a HELOC loan, which is
A HELOC loan?
yeah, it's home equity line. So you're in a way is you're
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Whoa.
you're
okay.
pulling out
Uh-huh.
the cash on your house, and so let's say
Kinda like a
if
second mortgage,
yeah, so
right?
exactly, yeah, so
Yeah.
let's say if you're profiting like $1 million on your appreciation, and you're like, okay, I want to buy something nice, I want to put like maybe 20%, maybe a little bit more, let me pull out like 500-600.
You're pulling out the equity of what your house is.
The value.
what
The
the house
value.
what the house is made, yeah,
You're pulling that out to do
Yeah.
something else.
Yes.
Got it.
exactly. So let's
So
say like
compounding your money.
yeah, so he pulls out like the $500,000.
Cool.
He uses that $500,000 with whatever else he has in his pocket, buys something else, moves out of that, rents out this house, and then hopefully that rent, depending on the rate and whatever you got, that rent is basically covering that loan that you just pulled on the house, but you just used that. Now you're renting out that house and you just bought a new one.
Wow.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you can keep doing that.
And that's how the money compounds.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people always wonder, like, oh, how do these people in the industry stay going on their off season and stuff like that? And I mean, unless you're like the top of the list, like always you're getting paid millions and stuff like that. It's typically these people, if they're like, let's say my rule of thumb I was always told is like, if you make it past the second season, you're probably gonna get a third. If you get a fourth season, you're probably gonna get a 5 and 6. There's like this weird rule of thumb. It's like
Okay.
the first season, it's like they own you. Second season, there's something like that. Like first season, they own you. Second season, you start to own them. Third season, you own them. Like they
Yeah.
need you because the people love the
Yeah,
show.
right,
You know,
right.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Streaming's changed a lot. And they're
Usually you're
basi-
making the show.
you're making
Yeah.
the show at that point. People are tuning in for you, not because you're like, yeah. And they're basically talking about, most, especially if they're on cable, like things have dropped and stuff. But let's just say you're bringing in, 600-700 a year, right? Maybe more depending on what you are. And you do the show and you're guaranteed for that third season. So you buy your house. Typically what people do is they buy their house somewhere between like the first and second season. Third season, instead of changing your home, they take that money and go buy like a shopping outlet or something like that. And you'll hear it's like, that's how people stay alive. Like Mario Lopez actually has a huge portfolio of homes. Had no idea. Turns out I had no idea. The house we
He's
were
in the
renting
house
at
you lived in.
60/20.
Yeah.
When we were renting that house, the guys and I, we had no idea the owner of that was Mario.
That's awesome.
We had no idea. And that's how he's like claimed stake. It's like you put money into commercial real estate.
Yes.
Well, the thing is,
Like-
I mean, look, bro, eventually it's monthly cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Because there's no such thing as passive income like that you don't have to work towards. That's one thing I feel like, especially in real estate or whatever, that was something that's sold so much, like passive income. Depends on what you mean by passive income. You could make a few $100 doing something on the side for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're not passive income where you never have to work a day in your life and stuff, that takes hard work. And
Yeah,
that takes
yeah.
like investment and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's such a funny thing we like sell,
yeah.
but
Look,
yeah, it's passive. It's easy. Like,
You know, the way I see it, if you're working because you want to work, but then on the flip side, you have so many assets just paying you monthly that you don't even have to think about how much money you're making. All
Yeah.
your bills are covered.
yes.
That's true, like financial freedom.
Right.
You know,
from you not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just what you've set up is now doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's like Mario and what probably God knows how many other people.
Yeah.
You know, people don't
It's
people
like that game, Cash Flow, where you get out of the rat race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan Tedder, One Republic, he's another one of those situations where like he got super amazing advice when he sold like his first few big songs. They're basically like, you know, he bought his house and then his advisor was like, you should buy this outlet mall or this like sort of like outdoor, and he's like, in that thing you rent that to people, and then as that accrues you can sell that, and
Yeah.
like sometimes you sell that for
Yeah.
itself
Well, the
millions
thing-
on the dollar, like, you know
well,
what
the
I
thing
mean?
on commercial too is like when you're the landlord and you're renting to businesses or anything like that,
Yeah.
they never sign for a year. It's minimum 3 years.
Yeah.
In commercial. So
right.
it's like when you're in commercial and you get like solid tenants, you know those tenants are going to be there.
And you're probably less likely, I'd argue, this is again kind of talking out of ignorance here, I have to preface, but I would say that when it comes to business, you're less likely to run into like terrible tenants. Knock on wood. Like,
Yeah.
because, well, for the most part, they're running a business. So
Right.
I'd like to think that they want to keep it smooth with the person they're renting from, especially if their business is going good. They don't want to
Right.
like just be, if a restaurant's killing it, you don't want to get kicked out because you're
Yeah.
not doing things right.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays too, there's a lot of pop-up shops. which is
Yeah.
kind of an
Right,
interesting
right.
Concept, because I don't think that was a big thing. I could be
There's a
wrong
lot
again.
of pop-ups. Yeah.
Like, you know, out of my ignorance of that, but like I feel like now it's like a thing where companies will pop up
right.
and rent out a space for a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also just getting very secure tenants in commercial spaces is nice. Like I was having a meeting the other day with some guy. We met at his building that he owned in Woodland Hills. And it was a pretty big building, but he barely had any tenant. Like it was filled, but he barely had tenants. It was less than 10 tenants.
Oh,
And-
interesting.
And we were sitting in the meeting, and he was like, "You just got to look for the right tenants." Like, yeah, 2 of his floors was like a doctor's office. Doctors
Oh.
rarely move if they find a good location.
Good practice. Why
Yeah.
would you?
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, finance guys, a
Plus
law.
your clients always know
yeah,
who you are.
law firms. Once they get grounded and find a great office space, they rarely move because it's hard to relocate and then have your clients on board.
Yeah.
point.
So it's like businesses like that. If you can find good tenants there, they're
Right.
genuinely they're probably gonna be there a lot longer than you think.
Yeah.
What's this situation I've heard of before, and I don't know if it's ethically or morally right, but you like can rent homes, or you basically own areas that are guaranteed that the government will pay you even if the tenant can't.
Section 8.
What is
Yeah.
that?
So Section 8 housing. So if you build like a building with a few units, you as the landlord, you can go to the city and ask for Section 8 approval.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to get Section 8 approval, the city will send someone to inspect your building to make sure it meets all the code, meets all requirements. So what the government does is basically people apply for the government to pay their rent, and then they evaluate their income and stuff like that. And let's say if someone makes, obviously they're low income, but they can at least cover $500 a month or whatever, then the government will write back and basically say, okay, we will cover $1,500. You cover $500, and now you can afford $2,000 a month. So, and then they give a voucher, and then once you have a voucher, you go online into a list where the city has all the buildings that are Section 8 approved.
Whoa.
So those people will automatically go to your building, or if they need help, sometimes the city will send tenants to you. So a lot of people that capitalize on a lot of apartment buildings, they do that because then they're just like, all right, well, regardless of what happens, they're probably going to trash the place and they're
Right.
not going to be able to fix certain things. But they're usually, if they're Section 8, they stay for a very long time. And like if the pandemic hits, the government's still going to pay.
Right.
So they're like, I
Right.
mean, at the end of the day, the government's never going to run out of money.
Well, because that was a huge thing in LA, right? Is like no one paid the rent for a lot of the
Right.
pandemic, or you didn't have to, or something like that, right? Like, what happened?
Well,
there?
I mean, that was actually very problematic.
yeah,
And it hit hard in the commercial real estate.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
because I mean, there's like 50% of businesses couldn't pay
their rent.
pay their rent.
Right.
Yeah. So but it's because of obviously the rental law protected a lot of people, especially in the residential housing. But the problem with that is that it doesn't. It's not like it disappears. You just
That was my
it doesn't
question.
disappear. You have to pay it all, and that's where the evictions became a problem.
Oh, so oh my
Because you have
goodness.
it's really just building up. It's just building up. It's just like you got a break for maybe a month, maybe 2, maybe 3, but you don't want to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not paying rent. Let me just continue not paying." Because
Whoa.
it's just adding
I didn't know it
Accumulating.
was
to the
bulking.
fire.
But my question is like, how many people did actually get paid back? Because if you just evict someone, then they just leave, and they don't technically have to pay it
yeah,
back, right?
I don't think a lot of people genuinely got paid
They
back.
just lost most of their money on that.
Like there was
That's
a like
crazy.
for example, I sold a 5-unit investment property to somebody near LAX.
Mm-hmm.
And he bought around LAX because you have Top Golf, you have the
Right.
airport, you have Huntington Beach, all that type of stuff. So it's quick like short terms, XYZ. But when he bought it, there was 3 tenants who were paying little to nothing because they had been there for like 10 years plus. And it was a rundown.
So like rent locked then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was a rundown building, but it had a lot of potential because it was surrounded by a lot of nice buildings.
Mhm.
So he's like, "All right, I'm gonna buy this," and he offered a tenant like $10,000. He was like, "Here, I'll give you
To
10,000.
get out.
You get out," and
Wow.
they had to agree and sign paper because as soon as you get the tenant to sign the paper for
Mhm.
a price that you're paying them to leave, right there, the tenant gave up their rights. So right
Oh, wow.
there, if they decide to not leave after that, now you can call the cops and they will remove them. But prior to that, if the tenant's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay, I don't care, and you haven't figured it out, they can't do anything.
So let's say, like, how does that eviction work? Like, you can't really.
You can't. Like I just canceled a deal in escrow because of that exact problem.
Wow.
so-
But that's a California thing.
It's a
isn't it?
California thing.
Like, isn't
Yeah.
that
It's the
doesn't-
same if someone like goes into your home for 30 days.
like squats,
Right?
right?
Squatters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real thing, isn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah, it is.
You
It
can't
is.
kick them out.
But the thing is,
That's
but
insane.
it's because California has rules right now where it's protecting them.
Okay.
Which don't get me wrong, I don't think anyone should be mistreated in a way where it's like not, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's actually not genuine or good at all. But if someone's taking advantage and it's causing problems, then
Yeah.
some of those people take advantage of that law.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Yeah, I really.
Yeah.
I was
But
like San Francisco has a lot of that.
But
yeah.
real quick to get back to the thing, so my client who basically paid off 10,000. So
Yeah,
you got to
yeah,
think
yeah.
about this. So this person was paying like that person was grandfathered in for 10 years. They were paying like $500
Wow.
for like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Wow.
And he got them out, renovated the place, and he's now he renovated it, make it look new, and he's getting like about like 3,000 for it now.
No
Yeah,
way.
and they ended up building like a whole back house in the back, adding 2 more
Wow.
units.
So that initial
So-
investment to pay them to get out ended up
It
paying
worked.
itself
No, it
back.
works. That's
right.
that.
Okay,
Usually,
okay.
usually if
you
you
want
don't
to do that?
like the cancellation I had,
Yeah.
with my escrow, there was a unit on the property where this tenant was not being cooperative, and seller didn't know what to do. And my buyer and I, we came in and said, hey, like, we will offer to pay them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, we'll put a document where you just credit us the same amount at close of escrow, because the seller doesn't get their funds until escrow funds and closes.
Right, right.
So they didn't obviously have the means at that time. So we're like, my buyer will front it for you and you just credit them at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to, buy out the tenant. But in this case scenario, the tenant was doing it intentionally. And the tenant was like, I don't want the money.
Oh wow.
know,
Proving a point.
Yeah. So then we're just like, all right, well, we're
Damn.
going to cancel escrow because if we close escrow with the tenant in place, then my buyer just assumed responsibility and can't get them out.
Oh damn, dude. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then so you're just like at the mercy of
That's just the thing about if I have any buyer looking for apartments,
Mhm.
and the first question I ask is it occupied or is it vacant?
Mm.
Usually you want it vacant,
Mm-hmm.
because if you want it vacant, it means you can rent it out for market value.
Mhm.
If you want it occupied, there's a very big chance that they're paying below market value and sellers just selling to offload it because they can't get them out.
Oh.
So, you know what I mean? So that's always my first question. And if it's occupied, I ask, what are the monthly terms and what's the rent roll like?
Oh.
When you get into escrow, they have to disclose the rent roll. Basically, like how long they've been there, what's their month term like, how much are they paying, are they current, are they not? Current means have they missed any of their rent payments? Stuff like
God,
that.
there's so many hoops to jump through, bro.
It's a lot.
Why is it so
Well, the thing
hard
is-
to get a
well, the-
house?
Well, that's an
that's like
investment.
most
That's an investment
people's-
property.
That's
Right.
not necessarily your
Okay,
home.
all right,
That's
all right,
different.
all right, all right.
But
That's
don't get me
different.
wrong. That's why you have real estate agents. You know,
Ugh.
real estate agents know how to tackle this.
That's why you have Brandon.
look. At the end of the
This
day,
is like all people want in life, and it's one of the hardest things to do.
to make you feel comfortable when you're buying a house, though, the house is going to be vacant. It's your house.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not buying.
for
You're not
sure.
buying an investment property.
Right, right.
Yeah. I mean, it is an
Now-
investment property, but you're not buying apartment units.
In theory, if you're showing this house, someone breaks in and won't leave, and you don't sell the house within 30 days, that would now be.
Well, did I tell you guys? Someone broke in to a house I sold while I was in escrow.
No way.
Yeah.
Did they outlast the escrow, or
My,
how did
my
it-
buyer almost didn't go through with the transaction. I kid you not, we had already signed documents, so he was already locked.
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
already
yeah.
wired it.
It was done,
He had
yeah.
already wired it. But I was able to stop the funding by calling escrow and just telling him to pause funding.
Yeah, just hold up. There's someone in there.
because
Yeah, right?
because we signed and he was like, you know what, Brandon? He's like, can I go to the house one more time? I just want to take some measurements because I got to know if I got to get rid of some furniture or not. And we go there and I'm like, that looks weird. Something with the garage door looked a little like banged up, which wasn't like a week ago.
Yeah.
And when we went in, someone had climbed the side gate, and this was in a nice neighborhood, but this was when all the break-ins were happening. It was like 2021, like around there.
Whoa.
Someone broke the side gate. Someone broke into the garage window and climbed into the window and stole a bunch of things.
Oh my goodness.
And they didn't stay in the house, but we noticed a ton of things were broken. And then like a ton of things were broken, like in the pool and then the kitchen, the garage,
Who's gonna
everything.
break the pool? What the?
And
what?
that's
so
expensive to fix.
so he was
They
yeah
just throw like a rager or something.
yeah so he was pretty pissed. He was pretty
Yeah,
pissed, which obviously
understandably.
no, I mean it was in a cheap price. It was like 2.5 or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And then it was funny because it was a harder situation to tackle if you're the listing agent representing the
Yeah.
seller. And I look over at him and he's just like, this wasn't here yesterday, guys. This wasn't here yesterday. And then funny enough, one of the neighbors happens to see us all and he comes in and he's just like, are you guys like, what are you guys doing at the house? We're like, oh, we're the agents. This is the new owner, but he's closing like in 3 days. And he's like, oh, so I called the cops here this morning. Yeah, I heard the glass break. I didn't know what was going on, but yeah, I think
Dude.
someone broke in and took something. And but because we were in escrow, thankfully it hasn't happened again. And he lives there, great house. He loves his house. Never happened again.
Yeah.
But during escrow, because we were still in escrow, and it's like
Watch it be the neighbor.
seller responsibility.
Yeah.
I paused funding
Right.
and I was like, hey, so you're gonna have to,
Fix
you know,
it.
your seller is gonna have to credit my buyer to like fix this window and repair this and repair that. So like right before close of escrow, the seller gave my client like $3,000
Oh.
to like do it
man.
all, and then I was like, okay, we can continue funding and stuff like this. But
Dude.
he was pretty pissed.
Yeah, bro.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
your
I
new place.
That's like, God.
it's
That
also
is.
scary.
I just like.
yeah.
I feel so bad because, you know, if your goal is to get a house,
Yeah.
that could take a lifetime. That's like it's crazy.
Or you
Well-
could have
well,
it tomorrow.
yeah,
Okay,
look,
Jake?
you you could not have it tomorrow unless you won like the lottery.
Well, the way I see it too, I think we went through this on another episode, is that if someone's even having an idea, look, I don't think you're naturally gonna think about buying a house
Mm-hmm.
unless you think you're ready. Okay, you're not gonna
That's
you're not
fair.
gonna have that thought,
That's fair.
right? So if you're thinking about buying a house and you're thinking about like, okay, I think I can be ready, you ultimately, probably speaking, the common buyer is not gonna know like, okay, how do I know what to do? How do I know this? How do I know that? I always recommend if you have an agent, go to your agent, or if you have a bank, go see what you're pre-approved for. Just go see what you're
Yes.
pre-approved for. It's like it's not that hard. And if you get your pre-approval, it doesn't mean like you have to buy a house right then and there.
Right.
If you don't like what you're pre-approved for, at least you know like, okay, I gotta have 10,000 more to get to this level, or 20 or 5, or let me wait.
Approved for a
let-
Happy Meal.
Yeah, like
basically.
like let me wait 6 months for my credit to go up a little bit. Like you at least know what you need to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
right.
So it's like I always recommend get a pre-approval, know exactly what you can and can't do or how much time. You could be ready. You could be ready in a better position than you thought you were.
True.
So ultimately,
And then call Brandon.
Yeah, see that, busy
Yes,
babies?
yes.
If you want a house, get pre-approved. Get pre-approved.
Get pre-approved and then call Brandon.
Just reach out to me, guys.
And if you can't afford that house you want,
and I will say,
keep
I-
fighting
It's like,
the good
wait,
fight.
Look,
it's like saving for anything you want,
Look-
though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
think about if you want the tickets to go
Look.
to a festival, you
Yeah.
save up.
That's
I
fair.
I
That's
will
fair.
say it doesn't matter what price you're ultimately buying at. If you're, I mean, it doesn't matter what. If you can even get in a place to where you can purchase property, like that alone is a huge accomplishment.
Oh my god.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well,
So
especially if you're out here. Too.
yeah,
Jesus.
and I've said a couple like scary stories, but then again, I have way more friends and clients that are absolutely happy
yeah,
Yes.
with their purchase and where they
I
are.
can Kirsten.
And what
Yeah.
and what their purchase has brought to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I have numerous amount of people that are like, thank God. You know?
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I'm glad we got into this. I'm like, I feel like time's flown. I'm hooked this whole time. I was
Yeah.
like, oh god, this is. It
Yeah,
sounds
no,
awesome.
I
It's
Yes.
terrifying.
Yeah,
and-
I can go down a lot more too.
Oh,
So
man.
I
Which
hear
is
you.
why I love how passionate you are about it, because
Yes.
it means you know your stuff. So that's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
I know I'm your wife, but if I wasn't your wife, I would trust you with my home.
Yeah.
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 I trust you with my home now, but you know what I mean? As a person, like
Yeah.
You
having
know-
someone who knows their business,
No, it's
you
true.
want to be a
Yeah.
part of it.
It's true. It's
Do-
infectious. The way you
alright.
talk about it's
Yes.
infectious. Yeah.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you
Jake.
guys.
Thanks for
Yeah.
saying
Do you-
that one.
Yeah.
Should I give one more story? But that's a good story.
Yes.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go
yeah.
for it.
Okay. I had a friend come to me one time, and this was during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Hey, I think I want to buy, but I don't know what route to take." So basically, what I just expressed, he went and got pre-approved, and we started the process, and a lot of, at the time, I feel like which is actually a good thing. A lot of people invest in the stock market,
Right.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people nowadays, over the last couple of years, have started investing in the cryptocurrencies. And I have a lot of friends invested in both industries, so in both markets. I mean, and my client particularly had most of his funds in the stock market and the crypto market, and he came to me and he was just like, "Hey, I want to use XYZ amount of money to purchase a house," and I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And he was going through a separate lender, wasn't through me, and halfway through the transaction, people were like, "Hey, so I know you only wanted to use this amount of money, but I'm going to need you to just like, I know you said you didn't want to, but I'm going to need you to just like sell all your stock and crypto assets, and you're going to have to put that towards the down payment."
Oh my gosh.
And that was an interesting cycle because it was when the market was at like an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little questionable, but we kind of all sat together. We talked about the best possible option here. My client ended up pulling the trigger and selling the market assets at the peak,
Yeah.
and basically ended up buying this house. Until this day, those assets have never reached an all-time high at
So
that
he
level.
sold them the perfect time.
So
Yes.
so that was one of my
Wow.
that's one of my
Good.
that was one of my clients that is like extremely happy because not only did he sell at the peak of
Yeah.
the stock and crypto market, he also acquired the house when the rates were in the 2%.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
so it was just like we always laugh about it when if we're together because it almost didn't happen, but our gut feeling made it happen. And till this day, couldn't be happier because actually the house asset makes more money
then what
than
that
the
would've-
stock crypto market. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. And because
It's a
That's a
little
good
more
one to end
stable,
on.
right?
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good one to
Yeah,
end
that's
on.
a
That's
good
like
one.
the
Exactly.
only good story of coins I've heard.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
crypto I've heard in
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah. So
What a
I was
blessing.
I was very happy for my client on that one.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm happy to
I
end
think
on
that
that
that's
one.
a good ending note, a good happy ending note.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
know?
yes.
So
Trust your gut
you
feeling.
learned a
Yes.
lot about real estate today, busy babies, and you also
Yes.
learned to not have any crypto anymore. Well, unless it's like Bitcoin, I guess.
Well, you know, just
Yeah.
trust your
I
gut
mean,
feeling
like,
when you have
look,
crypto.
like
Yeah.
like anything, it's a risk.
Yeah.
It's a risk.
Any
Yeah.
investment, right?
And yeah, and you know, I see crypto more as like a little gambling thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, if you can't afford to lose it,
Mm.
don't put it in. That's just my recommendation on
Yeah.
the crypto.
Well, it's like going
Yeah.
to Vegas. Look at that money you're gambling with. It's money already gone.
Yeah, exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. Well, I'm glad we ended on that note.
Oh man.
We
And
love you, busy bubbies.
Yeah, I love you guys. This is a good
Stay
real
busy,
estate
guys.
episode, man. Yeah,
babe.
stay
Boom,
busy,
boom,
babies.
boom.
Vibes.
Kisses.